Hello and welcome to another video, and here I'm going to review 4 of my watches that I'm selling on speedmastersales.com. I review a lot of people's watches, so I thought it was only fair I'll review mine. I don't sell that many, it's not my business, and I'm not in it for the profit. I'm in it to revitalize my collection, to move things around and to refine it. And the criteria for selling is that do I have more than one of something, and if so, should I sell it? And the other thing is that if I haven't worn it for a year, then it goes into consideration for selling. This is an Ed White, a 105003. It's been reloomed by James Hyman, who's the best in the business, in my opinion, certainly the best that I know. This watch I bought a few years ago from auction with records of an Omega service and an Omega service dial. It had this beautiful ./90 bezel, of which I have seen once or twice in this quality in a watch. An optimizer, somebody who breaks watches apart and puts them back together again, would remove this bezel and put it onto a better watch, there's no doubt. I tend to keep my watches as I find them unless there's a compelling reason to change something. The price of this watch, £9,000, reflects the reloom. If you do the calculations, you can see that a reloom, if you replace a dial on an Ed White, what would that cost you? $5,000, $10,000? And then you'd end up with a spectacular Ed White if it was an original dial. A lot of people will not see that this is a reloom. Why would you? It's that good, but it is. And so we can still go through the criteria of how to assess this watch. And again, bear in mind it's Omega serviced. If we look closely at the dial, and again, remember I'm looking at the body color. The body color is black, even. It's very, very nice. It's very nice. It was really quite incredible to find this dial in the bottom of the box, the Omega box that it came in, with no loom on it. And it's one of the best rescue jobs I've ever seen. The bezel, as we mentioned, correct, ./90, superb, absolutely superb bezel. If we turn the watch over, we see a very well-defined caseback. Very well-defined Speedmaster engraving with the hippocampus, the well-defined bevels. If you had to criticize, you'd say there's a very slight softness to the line between the two bevels, but it's very minor. The case has been refinished by Omega to Omega specifications. You can see there's brushing here. The lugs actually have some definition, polished tops as they're supposed to be. And here we can see the very nice brushing that Omega have put on. It is an Omega serviced watch. If we open it up, inside we can see a very special movement, very nice movement, and it's an inexpensive way to get a very good looking Ed White. As I said, if you do the financial calculations, you can see that the price is right for a watch that, if you like, doesn't have a dial, doesn't have a very good dial. But you know, this watch with a washed dial might appear much less interesting than this. So, moving on to the next watch. The next watch is a 2998-5. I always like to lay the watches side by side. It gives you a very good comparison and baseline. And we can see, if we're just going to compare quickly, this has a service crown and 32 teeth. This has 24 teeth, but the crown is a little short. If I'm being super critical, I would wonder whether that was an original crown. I think probably not. In fact, this whole watch may not be very original in terms of parts being swapped in and out over the years. Again, not an unusual thing with a Speedmaster, just not many people talk about it because they're trying to sell it to you. As you can see, I'm not a very good salesman because I'll tell you everything. First thing to look at is the dial. Absolutely correct dial for this watch. the -5 2998. Swiss made at the bottom, slight step, long indices on the plots, which have yellowed slightly, sort of whitish yellow. The alpha hands, it's arguable whether or not they are correct. I thought the -4 was when they changed over, but honestly, I prefer the look of the alpha hands, and this one has the fantastic lollipop, so you know, who am I to argue with that? The bezel, we can see it has marks here on this side. The rest of it's quite good, but it's not a fine bezel. It's not a fine bezel. If we look at the hands, since we're here, we see a transverse curve across the alphas. We see that the subdial hands are a little bit patinated, shall we say. But otherwise, the hands are, all look good to me. If we turn the watch over, we can see there is evidence on the case back of an engraving been removed on the flat surface here, because you see this. I probably could get rid of that slight scuffed look. I don't know what that is, but around here I think they've removed some sort of engraving. Not by me, again, it was delivered to me in this state. And this bevel here is present, slightly blurred line. Looking over the crown is, I think, too short. I don't think it's an original crown. Might try and find a better crown for it, I must say. Pushers look like they're Amiga service specification replacements. In general, 2998s, I heard somebody discuss the values of 2998s and said that they had come down. Well, I think it's because this particular gentleman is used to dealing with 2998s that are 20, 30, 40, 50,000. And I think that one of the I think the market has been slightly sort of knocked about because an awful lot of not very attractive 2998s came on the market for over 20 or even 30,000, and they're not very nice. This is £13,550, so it's in a different league. I think that it's a very good deal. I mean, the dial is superb. It's a really attractive dial. So we'll move on to the next. And again, I like to keep the watches side by side to compare. This is the brown 2998. You can see very clearly, the difference in color between the two dials. This one is very obviously black, and this is very obviously a dark chocolate brown. The dark chocolate browns, they were very much in demand by what I think of as old school collectors. The caramel brown is one that I personally like very much, but often these extreme browns are not as sought after by the same people who look for this, which is a much more classical brown colour. So let's take the 5 away and put in its place this, which is a 2998-62. Absolutely beautiful dial. The bezel on it is very good. Now let's bring back the Ed White just to side-by-side comparison of the two bezels. So you can see here clearly this bezel is in a far superior condition to this, but this is already very good. This is already very good. And it's only by comparison that we can really tell the very top end of things. Going back to the chocolate 2998, we can see the alpha hands, and this is a 62 with these alpha hands in the subdials, often considered not correct. I like them better, so I left them on there. Again, the watch arrived with them. So the hands, the alpha hands themselves, have curved slots in the end of the loom. It's possible that those hands are service replacements from the sort of late 60s, mid 70s. I don't know, I'm just saying. They look all right to me, and they look old, and they look slightly curved. But I have seen these on offer as service hands. It makes no difference. I think, again, the price is attractive enough that you know, that can be taken into consideration. If we look at the back, it's very nice, very nice. It has one or two scratches. There's a failed opening here, but it's got a very sharp line around the bevel and a very clear Seamaster and Sea Monster engraving. Crown is 24 tooth. The pushes are Amiga service replacements. There's no doubt of that. That's dead too clean to be original. Just a quick comparison of a 24 tooth and a 32 tooth crown. There you go. You can see that straight away. And also the reason why I think that this crown is probably not correct for the Speedmaster, you can see the difference in height there in the Lollipop 2998. If we look inside this one, it's got a lovely movement. Case sides, at some point they've been finished, but it looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. A little note on polishing of these straight lug Speedmasters. They've almost all been polished. If you are going to go and buy one and you say, I'm not going to buy it if it's been polished, then it's almost certain that you'll either spend a fortune, but even if you have a fortune to spend, you perhaps may not find one, because there's very, very, very few that haven't been polished. And here is the best. It's superb. Now, again, you can very clearly see the difference in colours between that and that. This is the black. You can also see the difference in the loom plots. Let's have a look at the other 2998. So here we've got a very clear comparison between yellow-white loom, pumpkin-coloured loom, and what you might call standard aged loom. This is really a special watch. It's a special price too. It's 25,750. So it's superb. It's superb. It's one of the best. Again, the dial is just flawless. You can put a loop on it and you won't see anything. The bezel is another exceptional .over90 bezel. Absolutely exceptional. Absolutely exceptional. Drop end chrono hand, which we expect to see in this later 61 reference. The triangle loom in the hands, we expect to see that, and the batten hands on the subdials. Really a hard watch to criticize in those areas. The areas we can criticize are the case back has one or two scratches in it. The bevel line here is the most blurred of all of them, but the top of the case back is sharp, and it's very good otherwise. And again, you know, when you're looking at cases, what we're looking for is the degree of polish, how much it changes the appearance and attractiveness of the watch, and can we live with it? Because that's what it's all about. It's all about finding the compromise between money and attractiveness. And so there you have this superb 299861. Look at the back, and we go inside and we see a very pristine movement, as usual for me. And so we're going to lay them out side by side, and you get a full spectrum of the straight lug Speedmasters that I'm offering for sale over on speedmastersales.com. And in fact, even if you're not looking for a Speedmaster, why don't you go there and have a look at the photographs, because I've spent a long time photographing all these, and there's some pretty good images there of Speedmasters, and it can help you. Quite often when you see sales photographs online, they don't show details. They don't. The lighting is done in such a way as to show them at their best. I tend to use lighting that comes from the side and reflects and picks up on any flaw and any scratch. so that you don't get a surprise later, because there's nothing worse than having a surprise later. There you have my 4 straight lugs, and if you like this video and you think it's a good idea for me to review my own watches, I'm not quite sure how I feel about that, leave a comment or send me a message, and as you'll see when you go to the site, there are 4 861s which I could review.